Today's video, I want to talk about alternative fly tying materials again, and we're going to discuss materials that I use for scud backs, for making maggots, for making caddis, pupae, stuff like that. A lot of times we will go and we'll get like a de-ribbing, or we'll get some kind of a stretch cording or scud back material. So I had used latex, and latex works pretty good. I'd get rubber gloves. I was a cop for 20 years, so I had access to rubber gloves, and I'd cut them into strips and I'd bind them down, and it works pretty good. I also used way back in the day when I was a kid, when the newspaper would come to the house, I would take that newspaper. The Denver Post had great big rubber bands on it. So I would take them and I would make my maggot flies out of them. Well, after about a year, they dry up, they fall apart. We did not have UV resins back then, so we would use epoxy. Well, that epoxy would get all brown and hard, and they'd just fall apart. It was a bad program. So what I started using later in life was latex balloons. And you can go and you can buy a package of these latex balloons. These were from the Dollar Tree, so they were $1.25 for a bag that has probably a dozen of every color that they have. And you can see there's tons. I mean, every kind of color you can imagine. Now, I use, of course, the white ones while I'm making like maggots, and some of my scud backs I'll cut and do that as well. And then caddis pupae, depending where you're at, they have different shades of them, so you can use the different colors for that. But something else you can do is you can cut these into strips. And if you cut them into like a 1/4 inch strip, you can roll them, and then you can, when you get them rolled, hold them tight, and you can wrap them on a body, and it looks very similar to detubing. So when you do that, you can, supplement one more material that way. Latex balloons also don't have the powder coating on them that rubber gloves do, or latex gloves do, or that rubber bands do. So if you get these, your UV resin sticks to them really well. It's a good program. I use these a lot for different bodying materials, and you can get a lot of it really cheap. So if you're into making these kinds of bodies, get you a bag of latex balloons. It's a cheap source to get a lot of materials, and it works really well. Hope this helps. We'll see you in the next video.